I was holding a casserole dish, pause, both hands still warm from the oven. I remember thinking, don't drop it, and I was saying that in my head not because I was clumsy, but because my entire body had gone numb and I wasn't sure my hands were still working. Pause. My mom was smiling at me from across the kitchen. My dad was nodding slowly like he'd just said something wise and reasonable, and my brother was looking at his plate. Slow down, and I just stood there, holding the casserole dish, wondering how I had walked into a Sunday dinner and walked out of my own life. I need to tell you what happened before that dinner. Because none of it makes sense without the before. Pause. I'm the youngest, not by a little, by a lot. My brother Daniel is 11 years older than me. He married his wife Priya when I was 15, and even then I thought they moved fast. They had their first baby, Myra, when I was 17, then came Soren 2 years later, then Addie. Then the twins, Lena and Bo. Pause. 4 kids in 6 years, and here's the thing, I love those kids, I genuinely do. Myra used to fall asleep on my shoulder during family movie nights. Soren went through a phase where he only ate food I made because I cut the sandwiches into triangles and their mom cut them into rectangles, and apparently at age 4 that is a deal breaker. Pause. I was their cool aunt, their fun aunt. I drove 45 minutes every other weekend to see them, and I meant it every time. My parents, my mom especially, always talked about our family like it was this beautiful, tight unit. She used to say, "We take care of each other," that phrase. Pause. I heard it my whole childhood. At the time it felt like love. Looking back, I wonder if it was always a contract I never agreed to. I was 26 when this started. I had finally gotten my footing. I had a job I actually liked, project coordinator at a small architecture firm. I had a 1-bedroom apartment I'd decorated myself slowly over 2 years, one piece of furniture at a time. I had a gym routine, a small group of friends I had dinner with on Fridays. A relationship, nothing serious but something real, something that was mine. Pause. I want you to understand that. I had built something, small but solid, it was mine. The first moment that felt off, I didn't even name it at the time. It was a phone call from my mom in February, just checking in, she said, but then she asked if I was really happy at my job. And when I said yes, she said, "That's good, it's good that it's flexible." Pause. I said, "It's not really flexible, Mom." She said, "Oh, I thought it was," and she changed the subject. I hung up and forgot about it within the hour. The second moment was a month later. My mom and I were shopping, she'd invited me for lunch, and we wandered into a home goods store after. She kept picking up things and saying, "This would be good for a house with kids." And I'd smile and agree because yes, the dish was cute. I didn't realize she was shopping for my future without telling me about it. Pause. The third moment was at Easter. Daniel and Priya were there with all 4 kids, and the house was chaos, beautiful, loud chaos, and at one point my mom pulled me aside and said, "You're so good with them." I said, "I love spending time with them." She squeezed my arm and said, "I know, sweetheart." Pause, and something about the way she said it made my stomach feel strange. Like she was confirming something, like she was checking off a box on a list I had never seen. The fourth moment was when my dad called me, not texted, called to ask if I had thought about my 5-year plan. I was confused. We didn't talk about things like that. I said I was thinking about maybe going back to school eventually. He said, right, so nothing locked in." Pause. I said, "No, nothing locked in." He said, "Okay, good to know," and hung up. Just like that, good to know. Pause. I stood in my kitchen for a second and thought, what was that? And then I let it go. The fifth moment was 6 weeks before the dinner. Priya stopped by my apartment, just to visit, she said. She looked tired, that deep in the bones tired that I had seen on her before, but this time was different. She sat on my couch and drank my tea, and we talked about nothing, but before she left, she hugged me for a long time. And she said very quietly, "I'm sorry." Pause. I pulled back and looked at her and said, "For what?" She smiled and shook her head. "Nothing, I'm just emotional lately." Slow down, I should have asked again. I didn't. The Sunday dinner was the last Sunday of October. My mom made my favorite meal, lamb chops with roasted potatoes, the green beans she does with almonds. I remember thinking, she's in a good mood. I was happy when I walked in. I was actually happy. Pause. Daniel and Priya were already there. The kids were upstairs watching a movie. My dad opened a bottle of wine and we sat at the big table, the one they only bring out for holidays. I thought it's not a holiday, but I didn't say anything. We ate, we laughed. Soren came down twice to ask for snacks, and both times I was the one who got up to get them because that's just what I do. And then Daniel cleared his throat. Pause. He looked at Priya. She looked at her plate. He looked at my parents. He looked at me. And he said, we have some news. Slow down, he said Priya was pregnant. Number 5, pause, I smiled. I said congratulations, I meant it, my parents were beaming. My mom had her hand over her heart, and then my dad said, and we've been talking. Pause, he said it slowly, almost gently. He said that Priya's mother had just been diagnosed with MS. That Priya's sister lived in Vancouver, that Daniel's job required travel 2 weeks a month, sometimes more. He said 5 kids was a lot. He said they needed real help, consistent help, not just weekends. Pause, he said they needed someone in the house, Monday through Friday, possibly full-time, possibly live-in. Slow down, and then my mom looked at me. Pause, not at Daniel, not at Priya, at me. Pause, she said, we thought, since your job is flexible, and you don't have anything tying you down right now, that you could move in with Daniel and Priya, just for a year or 2. Until they get settled. Slow down, I put down my fork. Pause, I want to tell you exactly what was happening in my body in that moment. My face was completely still. I know because I could feel it, the strange, locked stillness of a face that doesn't know what expression to make. My hands were in my lap and I pressed them flat against my thighs. I could hear the kids upstairs. Someone was laughing, little feet on the ceiling. Pause, I said, what? My dad said, it would just be temporary. My mom said, you'd still have your evenings mostly. Daniel said nothing, still looking at his plate. I said, you want me to quit my job and move in with Daniel? My mom said, not quit, you could probably work part-time, or remotely. I said, my job is not remote and it's not flexible. I told you that. Pause, my mom said, well, you could find something. Slow down, I sat there. I want you to feel how long that silence was. It went on and nobody moved. And then I looked at Priya, really looked at her, and I understood the hug, I understood the I'm sorry. She knew, she had known for weeks, maybe longer. And she hadn't warned me because she was drowning and someone had thrown her a rope, and that rope was me, and she had grabbed it before she thought about what she was doing. Pause, I stood up. I picked up my plate, I walked it to the kitchen. And I stood at the sink and looked out the window at the dark backyard, and I took 3 very slow breaths. And then I walked back to the table and I sat back down. Pause, and I said very calmly, I'm not going to do that. My mom looked like I'd said something in another language. My dad frowned. Daniel finally looked up. Pause, my mom said, we're not asking you to sacrifice everything. I said, you're asking me to leave my apartment, my job, and my life to become a live-in nanny for my brother's children. That's what's being asked. My dad said, it's family. Slow down, there it was, it's family, the thing she had said my whole life, we take care of each other, it's family. Used now not as love but as a door I was supposed to walk through without asking where it led. I said, I love those kids, and I love Daniel and Priya. And the answer is no. Pause, the rest of that dinner was like sitting in a room where the air had been replaced with something heavier. My mom barely spoke. My dad tried twice to reopen the conversation. You don't have to decide tonight, he said, as if there was something to decide. Daniel asked me to just think about it when I was putting on my coat. Pause, I drove home and sat in my car in the parking lot of my building for a long time. I didn't cry, I just sat. Pause, the next 2 days were a quiet kind of awful. My mom texted me that evening, we just want you to be part of their lives. I read it and put my phone face down. In the morning there were 2 missed calls from my dad. I didn't call back. Pause, my friend Jen was the first person I told. We were at our usual Friday dinner spot and I told her the whole thing and she put down her drink and said, wait, they want you to move in and be the nanny. I said yes. She said for free. Pause, I hadn't even gotten to that part yet, the part where no one had mentioned anything resembling compensation. Not once. Pause, that detail, the money detail, sat in my chest like a stone. They hadn't asked me to help out on weekends. They hadn't offered to pay for my time. They had decided quietly around a table I wasn't at that my life was available. That because I was single and young and the youngest and a woman, I was available. Pause, my mom called 4 days after the dinner. She said I was being selfish. She used that word, selfish. Slow down, she said Daniel and Priya were struggling. She said family doesn't keep score. She said she was disappointed in me. Pause, and something about hearing those words from her, words I had been afraid of my whole life. Words that had always worked to pull me back into line, something about hearing them now just made me go very, very quiet inside. Pause, not angry, not defensive, quiet like something finally settled because I had spent my entire life being the easy one, the one who didn't cause problems, the one who showed up. The one who cut the sandwiches into triangles, and I had thought that meant I was loved. But sitting with my phone after my mom said the word selfish, Pause, I realized they had confused easy with available, and available with mine. Slow down. 2 weeks after the dinner, I sent an email. I wrote it 12 times. The final version was 3 paragraphs. I said I loved them. I said I wanted to stay in their lives and in those children's lives. I said I would not be moving in with Daniel and Priya, and I would not be leaving my job, and I did not want to discuss it again. I said if they needed help finding actual childcare solutions, I would happily help them research options. Pause. My dad wrote back one line, "We'll discuss this at Christmas." My mom didn't write back at all. Pause. Christmas came and went. I went. It was stiff and polite, and my mom hugged me like she was doing me a favor. Nobody brought it up at the table. But after dinner, when I was in the kitchen washing dishes alone, my mom came in and stood beside me and said, very quietly, "I just don't understand you." Pause. I kept washing. I said, "I know," slow down, and I meant it. I think she genuinely didn't understand me. I think in her model of the world, being asked to give something up for family was an honor. And maybe for her generation or her experience it had felt that way, but understanding someone's model of the world doesn't mean you have to live inside it. Pause. It's been 14 months now. Pause. Priya and Daniel hired a part-time nanny, a woman named Greta who the kids apparently adore. Priya's sister moved back from Vancouver, closer anyway. The 5th baby, a boy, was born in June. I went to the hospital. I held him. He had that brand new baby smell, and he grabbed my finger, and I cried a little. Pause. Not from grief. From something more complicated, love and anger and relief and sadness all at the same time. My relationship with my parents is different now, not broken, different. There are phone calls, there are dinners, there are birthday cards, but I stopped being the easy one. I stopped making it comfortable for everyone else to not think about what they were asking. And that pause, that discomfort they feel now, that used to be inside me. I just stopped carrying it alone. I still cut Soren's sandwiches into triangles when I visit. He's 7 now and he still notices. He said to me once, very seriously, "Auntie, you do it right." Slow down, I think about that a lot. Pause. You cannot love people well from a life that isn't yours. Slow down, remember that. You cannot love people well from a life that isn't yours.